This program is brought to you as a public service by Maui Causes. Maui Causes is a crowd-funded media production group that provides media production services to a variety of environmental and progressive causes here in Maui County. Visit us on the web at www.mauicauses.org. Welcome to another edition of Maui Causes. Hi, I'm Sam Small. Eternal thanks for Akaku for even existing in the first place to be able to give this community a voice that is independent of the business interests that so dominate this society. You know, it's a constant message in this program. We are here to be a positive disruption of an established system of exploitation that goes back to the overthrow of the Hawaiian monarchy. At that time, business interests took control of these Hawaiian islands, and they've never given it back. That control is so pervasive in our society, in the courts, in our political system. How things are done here in Hawaii is to ignore the needs of the residents, the people who live here, in favor of the financial gains to companies. In the past, those were companies, and they were kind of local. You know, they had local names, Alexander, Baldwin. You know, there are roads named after those families. They were plantation interests who came to Hawaii to do good and ended up doing very well. You know, their kids went to school with the Hawaiian monarchy. Mm-hmm. They convinced the Hawaiian royalty to send their kids, the Hawaiian royal kids, to the missionary schools. And so they grew up together. And as the Hawaiian royalty, the monarchy, aged and became active representatives of the people of Hawaii, if they had to travel to France to negotiate a treaty, they took their friend with them because they were Anglo. They had a little more understanding of that environment, so they took them with them for moral support. Well, suddenly that became a business opportunity because those young people put into situations where they could develop direct relationships with foreign business people, they took advantage of that. And they've been taking advantage of that ever since. That's how sugarcane became an industry. It's how pineapple became an industry. It's how those industries took over control of these islands away from the Hawaiian people, away from anybody. And if you move here from the mainland, you really need to understand that that is what you're moving into. You are moving into an oppressed society. You are now one of the oppressed. You're living in the midst of a culture that is living with post-traumatic stress and suffering all of the behavioral problems that go with it. Because they've been told from the very beginning now, several generations, that they don't count. Their language was stripped away from them. Their identities were stripped away from them. They were told, shut your mouth, don't make noise, don't call attention to yourself, because if you do, somebody in our family is going to get hurt. That still goes on today. And the only thing that is going to change that is your participation in this electoral process. Because that's the mechanism, that's the hinge point where you as an individual can have a direct impact on our existing day-to-day system. Regardless of what may happen long-term with sovereignty or any other issue of control that might have an impact eventually on the overall geopolitical scene of Hawaii, day to day, today, your vote in these elections coming up, the primary and the general election in November, your vote is the critical element. That's where today the rubber meets the road. That's where today you can take an action that directly impacts the future well-being of your children and the natural resources of Hawaii. That's what this show is dedicated towards, supporting candidates who have an interest in representing you and your children and the best interests of the people who live here, not the corporations that have control. That's why on this show we bring to you candidates that are running for office that have an expressed interest in bringing balance back to the system. And one of those candidates is here with me today, Tasha Kama. Thank you so much for running. Thank you for the work that you've already been doing in our community. Why are you doing this?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to come here and talk to you about why I am doing this.
It's an honor to have you.
And I want to just say thank you to Akaku for allowing us not just this opportunity, but other opportunities that me as a candidate and others too have been able to come on to the different programs, the different shows, the time that they give us to get our 1-minute message out there, and they play it over and over, you know, and I'm so grateful to Akaku that we do have a public access station. And we need to always ensure that this station continues to stay here in our community, because without this media outlet, our people would never be able to know the real truth sometimes about what really goes on.
Right, and so, it's important to mention that, you know, I mean, over the flow of time, there have been many efforts to shut Akaku down. Everett Dowling went ballistic trying to shut Akaku down years ago. And we were able to protect the community from that kind of business influence. They don't want these discussions taking place. If you read the Maui News, you're not going to hear this conversation reflected in the Maui News, because they seem to have a political agenda that supports the business establishment.
That's very true, and that's why not only am I grateful to Akaku and for you as a producer to invite candidates such as myself, but also that we also have local newspapers, newsprints, and radio stations that do the very same thing, that they allow the voices of the people to be heard. So I'm very grateful. So yes, thank you so much. I just wanted to get that out there.
No, it's an honor. Look, you know, as a media person, it's an honor to be able to ply my craft and do what I do in support of you and the local community here. Maui Time Weekly does, does a good job, I think, of finding balance and bringing awareness to, stories and candidates that that are not part of the status quo. This show, Maui Causes, I just want to clarify for the audience, this show, Maui Causes, is an independent production. We're not produced by Akaku. I don't work for Akaku. Maui Causes is its own thing. We're a community, grassroots, crowd-funded initiative. And we barely get this show out by the skin of our teeth every week, thanks to Sleepy John and Todd Swan in the control rooms, we're thrilled to be able to have the tools to be able to present you and other people who have a progressive agenda, who have an understanding that something's not right here, and we have to dig in and do the heavy lifting to make change happen.
Thank you, and that's why we run, because as we have dug in deep and felt deep in our now that something isn't right, we can't sometimes lay our finger on it, but we just know it somehow. And as we get involved in the civic engagement and we start talking to other people and talking to our community, they too have that same sense. And before you know it, we get it, we understand it, that people's lives have not changed for 20 or 30 years, and they're wondering what can they do about it. And we're saying, yeah, we felt the same way, so we decided to run. And that's why I am running, because I believe that what we've been doing for the past 20 or 30 years has not made great changes for our people. Their lives haven't gotten better, so therefore maybe we need to change who's in control of the policy making here in our county. And that is why I'm running, because I know that I can make a difference. I have made a difference before in the things that I've done, and I want to continue to do that and work alongside with other people who want to do that very same thing. And I think as I watch on Akaku and as I myself attend meetings at the council chambers, that there's a very clear disconnect with many of the council members as they interact with themselves as well as the administration. So if you have an administration that doesn't work with your council, and you have council that don't work with each other, then who suffers? The people of our county suffer. And we cannot let that happen. We must get in there and have people of like mind who really want to make a difference, to make those positive changes so our people can have a better life quality.
You know, and nowhere, I think, in this current election is that more clear than in your race.
Yes.
Because you are running for county council against Alan Awakawa, who is leaving, he's terming out as mayor,
Yes.
and now he wants to become king of the county council.
Well, I'm not sure if he wants to become king. I'm sure I think he has some ideas of where his role would like to be, but I don't think that, it's very difficult if you have been part of the problem with the council, the sitting council, and now you want to join those same people and maybe some new people on there. I don't see how they're going to be able to get along, how that flow is going to occur if they're always in contention one with another. That's why I think it's important for people to elect people who are of like mind and who are able to work one with another, who are not so interested in what I'm going to gain, who's not so interested in getting my ego out there, but their only interest in mind is to be able to allow the people of our community and their needs to be met. So he may want to try to be the king, but it's going to be difficult. 1 out of 9. 1 out of 9. So can you imagine? I mean, I think that if he did get elected, how much turmoil would occur on that council if the other 8 or the other 4, whatever that magic number is, does not coalesce?
Well, we've had, you know, just in council testimony last week, that Mike White was describing, you know, how contentious. Ricky Kama was talking about how contentious these last 2 years have been, because we've had this 5-4 split. You know, the status quo, the business interests have just barely held on to control, and they are desperate to shut down this uprising of community that is looking to represent itself. The Maui News has so illegitimately attacked Alika Atai. Those 2 articles that they've run about, you know, his executive assistant, Brian Bartolini, were so, you know, absolutely fabricated to create a negative impression that they wanted people, and perfectly timed to go out with the mail-in ballots. That, you know, there was no reason to run that article, that first article on that Sunday. At that time, there was nothing new, nothing newsworthy about that article. It was purely a political hatchet job, and that is the kind of
politics that goes on in this place.
And the money, you know, the reason it happens is the money.
Yes.
It's all about the money. And the how that gets expressed time and time again here is land use. How the land gets used and developed, who gets to do it, and what giveaways occur. And those are the kind of things that an Arakawa administration will persist. They will continue. King, he certainly, I think, would have an expectation that he would be the chair of the council. Alan Arakawa, as the chair of the county council, would just drive this entire community towards full development, 100% build out. That Maui County under Alan Awakawa would continue on this trajectory of consuming itself and turning into Oahu.
That's why I think the people of our county have to really pay attention. And I'm not even sure if many of our voters actually pay close attention. I mean, you actually have to be almost like a political or policy wonk to be able to speak to these things. But most of our people, they're everyday people. They get up, they go to work, they come home, they take their kids to soccer, volleyball, or whatever. Then they go home and have dinner. They help the kids do homework.
They're living their
then
lives.
They're all in bed. But they don't have time to pay attention to what's going on.
Right.
And it's up to us us to help them to pay attention to what's going on. And so we get these bunch of people that are like-minded, that we all decide that, you know what, our values are critical and important to us. The land, the environment, the ocean, those are those things that feed us and nurture us. That is all part of who we are as Native peoples. And if we, and it also is helpful to our tourist industry too. But we're starting to destroy that golden egg
Yes.
that is ours. And if we don't stop doing that, then we'll have nothing. We will have nothing. And that's why I think the people of our county, and as much as we want to be able to get our word out to them, then we kind of like get lambasted because we take money from particular PACs or particular super PACs or people, and it's like, oh my gosh, we have people who like what we do. We have people who support us in all that we say, and we want to make changes. And then we have our own community sometimes coming against us saying, oh, but you guys are too new. You don't know what you're doing. I know what to do. I know all the answers, and you don't. But, you know, we all start from a place of we don't know either.
The incumbents that have been in office and ones that are coming back, like Alice Lee, they don't. In the past, how to describe this? You know, it's not an easy job being a council member.
No, it is not.
If you are truly going to represent the people's needs, then you have to be willing to drill down and have a staff and work with them and create your own understandings of these issues. You don't have to know everything.
Right.
But you need to be able to understand legislation when it's put in front of you, understand how this legislation came into being, and the intention of what will happen by virtue of this legislation.
Yes.
That, you know, involves a lot of details. If somebody is telling you how to vote, then the job becomes really easy because you just listen to what they whisper in your ear.
But you were elected by a constituency that voted on your record of what you said your platform was, what was important to you. So they voted for you because that was important to them too. What you cared about, they care about. What they care about, you cared about. So it's okay to hear what other people have to say, but in the end, you have to make that decision. But you can only make that decision, like you said, after you've drilled down, you've done your homework, you've done your research, and after talking with the different department heads in collaboration, that you come to an agreement of this is the best that we can offer for our people. That, I think, is what can happen. And I don't think you need to be a genius or a rocket scientist to figure that out. So I think that the naysayers who say, well, you all can't do it because you don't know, I beg to differ. We have new people who are running who are teachers. They're scientists. I mean,
lawyers.
Yes,
Kelly
attorneys.
Rollins Fernandez is a lawyer.
Yes.
She's passed the bar.
Yes, yes.
And with a specific intention. I'm in love with her. She is so inspirational. I come to tears every time I think of her and I talk with her. You know, this is a woman who at a young age saw what was going on and made it her business to go off, get educated, get a law degree, get a business degree, get a degree in Hawaiian studies, and come back home to represent her family and her people on Molokai. How can you say no? How can you say no to a candidate like that?
Can't.
How can you say no to Kelly Rollins Fernandez? This is her second time running for county council, and she has earned, and you deserve her representation. You deserve to go to the polls and bring her into the county council so that she can represent you, your children, and the interests of this land. That's what's so exciting about this election, you know, that people like yourself and so many of the others that you know really do understand the needs of the people that live here. They understand the needs of the island as a fragile infrastructure, how our resources need to be protected. You know, the sand is you know that's you know, that kind of exploitation is not not right. The Arakawa's administration practice of pumping wastewater cesspool into these bogus injection wells, and having that cess leak out into the
land,
swimming areas. You know, how is it? I still don't understand. At what point does the tourist industry realize that the business interests like what Arakawa has been supporting for these last 8 years, if not before? He's changed, I think. He's gotten more and more involved in business interests. Anywhere where the money can come in, you know, that's what the attitude is. Let's exploit this 100%. Let's build Maui out 100%. That would be a disaster. And though that entire mind frame needs to be balanced, and the Hawaiian understanding of the needs of the moku management of those natural resources is such a valuable voice to bring into the mix, to balance out and use it as a braking mechanism, so that rampant development can be controlled. Nobody wants. I don't hear any of the candidates talking about how we need to shut development down completely. Nobody's saying. We're talking about
balance. We're talking about balance. So we're talking about, like Hannibal. If you've ever looked at Hannibal Starbucks' website, he talks about conservation. He talks about preservation. But he's also a scientist too. You know, so we think about the Ahamoku system from the mountain to the sea, right? And everything coming into a pie shape, and what you do within that pie shape, and how it all works and flows together so that it provides for you, it nurtures you, and at the same time you go back and you nurture the land, you nurture the ocean, you nurture those things that take care of you, so you'll always have it forever and ever and ever. Our grandparents gave us this place. It's a beautiful place, but we have really degraded it. We have taken it to a place where our grandparents would be totally ashamed of what has happened to this place. Because then now we have to say, what are we going to leave for our great-grandchildren? What are we going to leave for the next 7 generations? Will we have anything to leave for them? It's up to us now to make that decision to be able to provide for those next 7 generations that have yet to come. So we need to take those values that we have from our kupuna, and it is those values that will have to drive the decision making. And even tourism, I mean, we are not against tourism, we're not against development, we just want it to be balanced. And we want to make sure that we take care of our people, our local people. It's a shame when you have a construction worker who is building a home that he himself cannot even afford to purchase. That is shameful. Where we have people who wait on people in the service industry, in hotels and in beautiful condominiums that they themselves will never ever be able to own or live like that. It is just shame. It's shameful that we cannot provide for our own families, that they need to leave this island, that they need to go someplace else so they can have a better quality of life. What's wrong with us? There's something wrong when we cannot provide that quality of life for our people here. And yet sometimes it's okay, so we'll just move, it's okay. It is not okay. We should stand up and say no, 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 and then take a stand and do something about it.
And it's not just that there's an inequity. It's not just that economics, it's expensive, things are, it's an expensive place to live. But the system is so far out of balance.
Out of touch.
The business interests have been allowed to take things to such extremes where every aspect of our society, every aspect of the business interests that are involved in the county are given away to developers, are given away to the business interests. I've done a lot of research and have presented on the land use, the deferral agreements, and things the upcountry water bill passed in 2015.
Right.
I just testified this past week on how that manufactured a secret giveaway. The Arakawa administration, with the help of Gladys Baisha, who has now been given the water director position, I believe as a reward for manufacturing for developers a 2-lot exemption that's was supposed to be, everybody was told it would only benefit families on the upcountry water meter list, wait list, indeed is benefiting commercial developers island-wide. Alexander and Baldwin, a 1,200-acre parcel across from the Cathedral Church, Pu'unene and Dairy Road, under this upcountry water meter bill, A and B got a full roadway exemption so that when they develop that land commercially or residentially down there in Kahului, the citizens are going to have to pay
for that.
their roadway expenses. And that's going on island-wide. And none of the council members admit to knowing that it's taking place. They all voted for this bill.
Do they know what they're voting for?
Apparently nobody read it. And even, you know, I haven't spoken to Gladys Baisha about it specifically to ask her, did you even read the bill that you sponsored and shepherded it through the process?
It's difficult to understand or even to believe that that could happen. I'm just being wowed by that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, really, as the people who have been waiting for years for an upcountry water meter, it's almost as if they were being held hostage.
They were.
Then down in Kahului, then this is what A and B gets, but then it was at their expense.
Well, and you know, I mean, the whole water meter issue on upcountry is a artificial suppression of any development upcountry. The powers that be up there, the controlling interests for decades, people who live up there and are politically and economically active, they don't want development upcountry. They don't want, you know, to change the density of what's going on there. And I understand that. It's very nice. Nobody, you know, it shouldn't get, you know, overdone. And because they see that once developers get their fingers in something, that it does get completely exploited beyond all reason, they've used the water meter thing as a braking mechanism to stop development upcountry.
Now you've put my head in a different track, in a different thought pattern, which is, so I want to just kind of like move on, because my area of concern has always been for the Hawaiian homelands. And up country, there is 25,000 acres of Hawaiian homelands in Kahiki Nui, and there are 6,000 acres of Hawaiian homelands in Waiahuli and Keokea, which is the area kind of like surrounding Grandma's Coffee House. And
Sure.
So those 6,000 acres there. So when you look at it from Kihei or from the tech park, so from the tech park, if you went 2 miles up country, you'd be hitting the Hawaiian homelands.
Right.
That's 31,000 acres of land that I intend, along with other 20,000 people on a Hawaiian homelands waiting list, are going to be wanting housing and water. And we just had a whole conference this past weekend with the Department of Hawaiian Homelands that had Kyle Yamashita, Lindy Coit, and Representative Gil Keith Agaron, because they all represent huge Hawaiian homelands beneficiaries in their communities. So Kyle has all of the upcountry. So he's got those 31,000 acres of Hawaiian homelands. Lindy Coit has the perimeter of Maui, including all of Molokai and Lanai. Lanai has 50 acres of Hawaiian homelands. And then Gil Keith Agron, who has the Paukukalo, and he also has all the Waihe'e, Waihuko 1, 2, 3, and 4. I mean, that is acreages of Hawaiian homelands that we are actually going to put Hawaiians on. So when we talk about not having water or having to wait for a water meter, I realize that according to the trust, according to the Act, according to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Hawaii, that Native Hawaiian homelands has first call and first rights to that water before anybody else. So I'm feeling really kind of like out of sorts in hearing what you just told me, and I am going to start asking questions about the how come and the why. And did you I mean, if I would be totally aghast if I missed something like that, you know. So I better be paying closer attention to what's going on.
This is the call to action to all of the council members. It's astounding to me that none of the council members caught it. You know, including, you know, council members that are, you know, chair of committees that are affected by it.
Yeah.
You know, because it affects the bottom line.
Right.
It affects their budget.
Right.
You know,
Right.
It shows. You know, I went back and I read the testimonies of the water
Director
of the commission.
Okay.
You know, going through these issues with this idea that, you know, something be done for the families on the upcountry water meter wait list. Every time anybody was asked, well, do you have any numbers? How many people on the wait list have no meter at all? How many on the wait list have enough land, they've only got one water meter, so getting a second meter would indeed allow them to do the subdivision, this 2-lot subdivision. How many people are we talking about? Nobody could answer the questions. At one point they were talking about a 2-lot deferral or a 3-lot deferral. They didn't even know the difference in numbers of how many 2 lots subdivisions were potentially in existence or how many 3 lots could be done. Nobody did any assessment of even how much water was available. The giveaway that they created, had they not stripped it of geographic specificity when they wrote the language and inserted it into Title 18, creating this island-wide 2-lot exemption. Had they indeed kept to the integrity of what they said the upcountry water meter bill was supposed to do, that exemption would have only gone to families that were on parcels where the county already has existing infrastructure that has been determined to be adequate.
Okay.
There are families on the upcountry water meter list that only have a 2-inch pipe running the length of their road.
Okay, it's not big
so
enough.
those people, they never even addressed the needs of those people. They never even considered what would happen to those people when they start churning this water meter list. They never considered any of the real issues, because I think it sure seems to me that the entire intent of the whole thing was at the last minute come in and say, we need to give them roadway exemptions too, and nobody had time to consider it or really pay attention to it, and they just went ahead and inserted bogus language into the Title 18. And that's what Don Guzman has finally stepped forward and said, hey, wait a minute, this is not right. And we need to take this language out. If you want to fix all this other stuff, great. But in the meantime, secretly, exemptions are being given to commercial developers island-wide, and nobody really knows that it's taking place other than the directors, who have stated that we will continue to do it until they change the law.
So I have a question then, because how does that impact, and again, now my head is going somewhere else. How does this impact the cesspool to septic conversion?
I don't know if it does.
Because
no, I don't know if it does. Because they're talking about roadway exemptions.
Right, but we're talking about water meters, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so most times if you need a water meter, if it's water in, water out, right?
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to, so when the water comes, right, when you get the water meter, then you're gonna have to figure out how to get rid of it. I mean, and if you no longer can do cesspools, you have to do septic.
Right.
And the cost of doing a septic is added to the cost of of that lot that you want to put a house on or whatever.
Yeah.
So that just increases costs for homeowners if they want to do that up country. So if you've been waiting 30 years for a water meter, And now you get stuck with what? Now you got to put in a septic instead of a sewer, instead of a cesspool.
Right.
That just adds more to the cost, and then you end up not doing it sometimes.
Well, which is, I think, the goal, is that, you know, people who want to develop their properties up country cannot. And that seems to be the prevailing methodology of the county council now for decades. They don't really want upcountry to be developed, and they've created all of these barriers. And to insult to injury, have used these issues to manufacture a secret giveaway.
That's hard to believe. It's like, oh my gosh, really?
This is what I see. This is the level of manipulation that I see taking place in this county. You know, those deferral agreements. Ellie Cochran's invited me to make a presentation to her infrastructure committee about these 3-lot or less deferral agreements that were created in 1974 and never, ever, 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 ever collected on. The county has gave away secretly, and I call it secretly because if you say it's a deferral, well, that means it's at some future time. But if that future time by design never comes, it was never a deferral, it was a secret exemption. And Joanne Johnson took that secret exemption away from the departments back in 2010 with good support, you know, with some support, because they had no system to administer it. So how can you be giving this thing away to developers or even to families if you have no process to deal with it?
Okay.
And they've had from 2001 from 2007. To today, 2018, they still have no process for dealing with that stuff. And it's mind-boggling, the stagnation and the resistance to doing the job right, to doing the right thing for the community. And that's why I support the change that we're talking about.
That's why I support the change too.
You know, because these old, you know, council members coming back, they have no interest in changing anything. In fact, they're coming back to try and protect that bogus system that has been exploiting things for so long.
Yes.
You know, it's why, you know.
That's why there's a clear need to really get new people in.
Yeah.
It's critical, and I think that our people in the county have to be able to say, we got to change stuff. We got to change stuff, and the way to change is to vote.
Yeah.
So I want to be able to talk about that. Can we talk about that article in the Maui Time?
Yeah.
Okay, I think it came out last week because I think I saw it last week, but I can't remember the date. But it had a picture. There was Ellie Cochran on there. Of course, I was on there too, and Keani and all the others. And it had
all women.
Yeah, it was all women, and it said Mana Wahine. When I saw that, it just kind of like just grabbed my heart because, you know, as a Native person, the word mana, it means power. It does, but for us, it's not an English word. Is not a trade-off for a Hawaiian word. It just doesn't mean this or that or that or this. All of our Hawaiian words go deep. They're really
nuanced.
Do.
Yeah.
You know, I think the word for that is the essence, the essence of the word. Yeah. So when I saw that, I in my heart I said, "Oh my gosh, somebody actually understands the Native thought process," because in our culture, right? Women are very powerful. They're the moms. They're the wahine. They're the ones that feed us. They're the ones that help us to thrive. It's like Earth. When we consider Earth, we consider her our mother because she feeds us and she allows us to thrive on her, and everything she sacrifices is for us. So when I saw that article, I thought, oh my gosh, mana wahine, women of power, women who will nurture, women who will take care, women who are caregivers, women who love deep, women who are moms who will always, always give to their children first and themselves last. And so when I saw that, I thought, oh my gosh, somebody gets it. Somebody actually saw the value and the worth of a Hawaiian woman. And then when I saw it like that, I said, and politically, Hawaiian women are very political. You know, our first queen, Keopuolani, was actually Kamehameha's sacred wife. And when he went to battle, he took her, because the law was, when the queen comes, if you are found in her shadow, off with your head. So that's one way that you win a battle, right? You take your queen that everybody has to bow down to, and then while they're doing that, you kill them off. but the power of the Native woman, you know, as in the home and in the community, and now as a politician, it's wow.
Yeah,
it's really wow.
It's time. That's what they're, you know, and nationally too. You know, that there's an upswell of female candidates that are deserving. You know, and it's not, you know, it's not to say that you know, somebody should vote, you know, for a woman just because she's a woman.
Oh, absolutely.
You do need to look at, you know, their credentials, because there's plenty of people that have been subverted and sucked into this business syndrome. There's a lot of people that support the existing business paradigm and really they're not even aware that they're doing it. You know, it's just become sort of normal.
Yeah.
And you really do have to sit down and look at your policies and the individual things that you want to do to be able to make the determination.
Right. Yeah.
But it's part of, especially locally, it's part of this uprising. It's part of, you know, people with a willingness and an understanding to be leaders, to do the job. It's a lot of work. You've been doing work in the community now for decades.
Yeah, I have.
You know, people, please, you know, I mean, give us folks a sense of the kind of organizing and initiatives that you've been.
Yeah, I won't go back too far. I'll just go back maybe let me see. Within the past 5 years, I'll share
5 years. What have you done for us lately, Tasha Kama?
Okay, lately in the past 5 years. Okay, so 2014, I had the opportunity to go to the island of Oahu and spend a whole month over there with 119 other Native Hawaiians, creating what we called a governing document to be able to create or reestablish a governing document for a nation. And so alongside of them, we worked on the Constitution for a government for the Hawaiian people. And so we did that, and so the Constitution is supposed to be going around the state for people to preview, to be able to, and at some point in time, we're going to ratify that document. So that's what I did in 2014. It was, and Keani was there too. Keani was at that same convention where 120 Hawaiians in a room for a whole month is very, to me, it was special, because what you hear before was Hawaiians are getting in the room, they only fight. But you know what? It's not fighting. We're just so passionate about the stuff we talk about that our voices go high. Sometimes we cry. That has happened. Sometimes somebody has to be removed from the room so that the business can get carried on. But we did that. So I'm proud of my people. This past weekend we had what the Hawaiians call a puvalu, similar to a conference. And where we had another 120 Hawaiians from across the state talking about the 2018-2019-20 state budget, because we want things for our homesteads up country in Lahaina and all over the state. And so we managed to put together some of our priorities that the Department of Hawaiian Homelands is going to incorporate that into their budget ask at the next go-around, next lit session. And that's why Senator Keith Algaran and Representatives Decoit and Yamashita were there to be able to hear what some of our priorities were, because when we come to the ledge, we expect them to be able to say, you heard it, this is what the Hawaiians want, and now we'd like you to fund these projects that we have in mind.
Do you think that they would actually do that? I mean, those three representatives are...
One of 25 and 2 of 51.
But they're contested. There are people running for those seats today that might be more willing, I think, if elected, to do what is being asked here.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
I totally agree with you. And that's why when I looked at the agenda, and I said, But the Department of Hawaiian Homelands creates the agenda, not the beneficiary. We just kind of like go along with them, although most of the people in the room already voted, absentee. But yeah, so when I started, I said, well, okay. Sometimes I think it's just like these dog and pony shows that, we got to go through because it's what it is, right? And
That's
so
politics. It is
so
what it is.
we don't even know if they're going to be there next year, but it was nice that they heard it. But you are correct, any one of those seats could change, except I think Gil's not running. I think.
No, yeah, I think that.
Yeah, it's Kalani and Roz that are running, but he's not. So he will still be there, one of 25.
And those are very important seats, that the same way that we support, candidates that have a forward thinking, an understanding of the balance that we need to reestablish. Those established representatives and state senators, I don't think have been doing enough for the people. They've been doing things that are right for business interests. And I think it's time for the same kind of revolution.
Yes.
Here on it's Maui, so we have to say love-olution.
Yes, because we no ka oi, that's why.
That's it. And that love-olution, I think, also, hopefully carries those people out of office. That we need a new blood in Maui County Council, and we need new blood at the state level as well. And we've got candidates
Congress
that are
too.
stepping up for the first time that are qualified and capable and willing of doing the job. That's why we so encourage the community to vote. So many people have not felt represented by candidates for so long, and that's really, really, really different today. And that's why I'm hearing, I mean, there's evidence to show that voter registration is up, first-time voters are up, and we can ride this wave to, creating some change, and it's as we get towards November, they're going to come gunning for you. There's a lot of money that's backing Alan Arakawa to be able to move from mayor to county council. There's a lot of money that's backing Alice Lee going up against Alika Atai, because Alice Lee is part of the old establishment that wants to continue to control things. Tremendous amounts of money. In 2014, Monsanto spent $12 million trying to influence Maui voters alone on the GM moratorium. $12 million is the most ever spent in a local initiative in the history of the United States, right here on Maui. That's how important Maui is to these business interests, and those business interests, they don't want you.
And that's why I think the people of Maui County who do have to go to the polls and they must vote. If you want to change those dynamics that you just talked about, they have to vote, and they would have to vote for me. And I mean, unless they want the status quo, which is okay. I mean, because we live in a democracy. People can choose to vote for this person or not vote for this person. We can choose to speak about some inequities, some things that we think that are wrong. We can choose to say, well, I think it's time for so-and-so to retire, and I would like to retire them. And it's okay to say things like that. I mean, there's nothing derogatory about that. But I think that if the people of Maui County want to change, they can just vote them out. And I think that the people of Maui County are very smart people. I mean, if the $12 million that Monsanto spent to be able to get somebody else elected or get Alika unelected, well, just goes to show you that money isn't everything, that the vote of the people is important, and you cannot buy vote, and you cannot buy me.
And some of the council members, I think, actually seem resigned to the fact that they're not going to be back. Last Friday, Ricky Hokama, speaking on the council floor, seemed to acknowledge that he may not be back. He may not win this election. He may not be back on the Maui County Council next time. He seemed almost resigned to that.
Wow.
Because that's, I think, what's going to happen. I think it's time really for that old guard to step away. They've been obstructing, change, and they've been, keeping appropriate levels of accountability. That's one of the issues here in Maui County that has gone on for way too long. There's no accountability.
Yeah.
The county council has the authority to investigate any issue that comes before the council, and they've never, ever done it because they don't have the political will.
Yeah.
No one has been willing to put their neck on the block. And Corporation Counsel has been manipulating, the mayor's lawyers has been manipulating the council members. They threaten the council members. If any of the council members tries to go against the grain, they sit them down and they tell them that you are doing something that will potentially cause the county to lose a lawsuit. And if we lose the lawsuit, you will be responsible for costing the county money. And we won't support you. As lawyers, you will be on your own. The county will not defend you because the problem with that is that a lot of the lawsuits that the county is engaged in, the county's on the wrong side. The directors were guilty of acting outside their authority. Arakawa was deemed himself to be acting outside of his authority many times now. Nobody ever gets prosecuted or they never hold them accountable, but Corp Counsel institutionalizes these bogus acts. Corp Counsel defended the injection wells and lost, because they never should have been defended. Directors' faulty decisions should not be defended by the county. But that's what they do. And if a council member tries to stand up against Corp Counsel, that's what happens. Corp Counsel intimidates the hell out of them until they back down. And that is going to continue until we get a majority of council members to be able to flush out those bad actors. They have been doing bad things for so long. The entire system is bound up protecting the bad fruit. There's lots of good fruit available. There's lots of good things to be done and lots of good people to do them. But the system is protecting the bad fruit. And that is what these, hopefully yourself and other council members who have an understanding that we need to just shred off that old system and bring new life and new blood into this county. Those are the kind of changes that this show is dedicated for. We're thankful, for people like yourself to bring, to bear witness.
I'm thankful for the education I got just now. I am just I'm just flabbergasted, that I guess not knowing what's going on as because you have to be on the inside to be able to see. But when you're on the outside, you're not seeing. And then you end up hearing these things. It's like, oh my gosh, it is difficult. It's difficult to hear, and then it's even difficult to believe that people are not paying attention, and because of that, people are suffering. And that shouldn't happen.
No.
We shouldn't let our people suffer. And when we make a mistake, we should own it and move on and take care of it.
And fix it. Yeah.
and get it right.
You gotta fix it. The responsibility is there to
Yeah.
and that's legislation.
Yes.
No legislation is perfect.
Yes,
There's always unintended consequences.
Yes, there are.
Things change over time. It's a liquid process, and but the issues deserve to be addressed.
Yes,
and the
absolutely.
council members' jobs is to drill down into that stuff.
But
And
they
what I-
shouldn't be intimidated too. No council member should be intimidated for doing their job.
I've talked to a lot of them, and every one of them says that they're intimidated by the director of public works, has intimidated the council members, and corporation counsel regularly, and it puts the council members on the defensive and intimidates them towards inaction.
Well, I'm just hoping that when the new council gets in, the new administrator gets in, that they're able to sit down and resolve many of the stuff that we talked about today, or go look to see where all of these pieces of the legislation are.
Well, a lot
to
of
make it work.
a lot of the issues could be solved, not all of them, but some of the issues could be solved with a professional town manager that would change the flow of how things work. And the existing council refused that notion. They don't want new voices. They don't want professionals coming in and doing a professional job, because the way that Maui County has been run is to the advantage of business interests, and it's not been run professionally. If you
Well,
bring
how much of a discussion did they have on that? Sometimes I think discussions go over your head like that.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand it, then you should be asking all the 1,001 questions, so that in your head you understand clear enough so that you can make a good choice and a good decision. But sometimes I think that there's probably not enough time when I watch it on a Kahului.
It's very challenging. I mean, I see what the staff are tasked with doing at the council level. The council members don't have enough resources to do the job, the way that it needs to get done. They don't have the time to drill down onto these issues the way that they really do need to be done. We do need to find additional ways to support the council. And that's part of the change. That's part of what needs to evolve. Bringing more voices in so that we can broaden the discussions and bring light to the people's needs that is not being met. Tasha Kama, thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you very much
and
for inviting me.
Yep, the work that you've done in the community for many years, and the work that we hope you are able to do as a county council member. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Join us again on another edition of Maui Causes. Go to our website, mauicauses.org. Aloha.
Aloha.
This program is brought to you as a public service by Maui Causes. Maui Causes is a crowd-funded media production group that provides media production services to a variety of environmental and progressive causes here in Maui County. Visit us on the web at www.mauicauses.org.